Curators.
Good afternoon YouTube, this is J5276 and you're here for the third episode of the Curators of Hardcore, in which I waffle on about various rare, collectible and valuable records of the hardcore techno Gabber persuasion that I have in my collection. And as you can see today, it is Dead End Records 2 by Micropoint, which consists of did, and then they actually split up in 2001 and reformed in 2008. It is Denis Cohen-Scally, aka Alcor, and Daniel Tecolt, aka DJ Radium, mangling of French names there. So yes, it was, as far as I can tell, Micropoint's second EP together, the first one being a release on Beast Records. This was October 1996, as I say, the second EP on Dead End Records. The first, I think, was Dead End 1 was a sort of split release between various people. Radium himself, Tripod System, Speedy Q's, and just a fella called TR. Micropoint, as you know, sort of pioneers of the Frenchcore sound, as it is called now. I mean, this was just sort of industrial hardcore. A lot of labels came off the back of sort of the popularity of Micropoint and Dead End. You have Epitaph, Psychic Genocide, Neurotoxic. For the real collectible stuff, you've got Saddam and Speedy Q's Graveyard label, and as I said, the whole French sort of techno, hard tech side of things really exploded, and there's more labels these days than you can keep up with through the distributors like Toolbox and the likes of them, especially sort of now sort of stuff's distributed for the internet. At the time this came out, sort of stuff from France was pretty few and far between. This is particularly difficult to get hold of, as were a lot of early stuff on Dead End and some of the early Micropoint material, some of the Radium's earlier material as well. So as I say, it's sort of very, very solid industrial stuff, quite different from a lot of hardcore that was around in 1996. You had the Dutch turning on to sort of the more happy hardcore side of things, DJ Paul, Charlie Lolo's Mental Theo, and so on and so forth. So they were going down that angle, and it was a few years before you had the 150 BPM, 160 new style stuff, but it always has been sort of very cheesy compared to this sort of stuff. So yeah, it's head down, solid industrial stuff. The track people go on about is E-Man, which has elephant trumpeting samples, and note should be made for the A2 Barbarians. There is a video which I'll link on YouTube of Pingu, the old animation of the sort of penguin, very strange animation, sort of jumping around and dancing around to that track Barbarians, and it's sort of clips from the show edited together, and it looks like he's giving it beans to the track. So it is very funny and very well done. I'll link that. The other two tracks, again, sort of really seriously hard stuff for the time, and now sort of up at 200 BPM and the kind of stuff you'd expect from these artists and these labels. So in terms of value of this essentially cost me nothing. I bought it in a job lot a couple of months ago, which involved a sort of 3-hour round trip and a new suitcase to carry it all back in. I basically filled in the blanks for most of the early Dead End discography. I had a few releases on Dead End to start with. It was a mother and father all job lots. There was basically most of the Death Jam back catalogue, early back catalogue in there, all the rare stuff, the Ripper and the War Groover stuff and the Diplomat stuff and so on and so forth. But as I say, this essentially cost me nothing, because the job lot in question, I've sold all the stuff I've already got, and sort of at least doubled my money already. So that was good. Unless you get lucky like that, what you can expect to pay in terms of Discogs is a very good copy will set you back 40 to 60 quid, a near mint 60 to 80. That's based on recent sales, say in the last 2 or 3 years. Average price of 60 quid, I think. I'm looking on Discogs now, and there's 2 copies for sale. Yeah. Both for €80, about 63, 65 quid. Both from a French seller, both near mint. A seller with no feedback at all. I don't want to name him, I don't want to excuse him, but he's got 6 items for sale, and they're all very rare stuff. He's got 2 different releases on Slaves of Devil Our Master, Sodom Records. Very rare label, £100, £200. If something is too good to be true, it usually is. In terms of a seller selling this kind of stuff, all near mint, for these kind of prices, with no sort of prior feedback or anything, proceed with caution. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to falsely accuse anybody of anything, but yeah. So in terms of that, there was a time when dead end stuff sort of would pop up on eBay UK now and again, but it tended to be the later releases, especially Dead End 11, which is Radium Mythoman EP, the Fist of Fury one, Dead End 13, Dead End 8, Easy Money. That's the EP with the sort of Daft Punk diss on there. I think they sample the funk and sort of generally. I think they put like cash register sounds all over it or something. But that's a good solid EP. But in terms of value of the Dead End label generally, there is very much a split. The first 6 releases, including this one, the Sarin Assault EP, Psychic Shock EP, which is Speedy Q's, Armaguet Nad, I think that's how you pronounce it, Dark Side of My Brain, which is 5, and Anti-Nancy Vendetta Micropoint, which is 6, all 15, 20, 30, 40 and upwards. Then after Dead End 7, it's kind of £5 to £10 each. For some reason, I don't know whether they became easier to get, whether it's because it's not Micropoint or Speedy Q's material. I don't know. But the exceptions to that, sort of post middle of 1997, I think, you've got a joint release between someone called Lawrence and Radium, which is a split joint release between Dead End Records and Stormcore. That will set you back considerably more. There's no year on that on Discogs. That's about 25 quid. And then you've got the 2 Micropoint albums, Neurophony, which £65 for that. Very good EP. To a double album EP. Very much sought after. Has seemed to have gone up a lot in recent years. Presumably it's become a lot more difficult to find. And then there's Anesthesia International. That's the other double album. 20 quid for that. So yes, there's nothing sort of like 2 quid, 3 quid. They are very hard to get. As far as I know, nothing's been repressed or re-released. That might not be the case for the 2 albums. I'm sure they've been re-released or something, but it wouldn't surprise me if they had, but I've got no evidence to show that they have. So in terms of Micropoints, a word on a sub-label of Dead End Records, Dead End Limited. You haven't got this. You haven't got these releases. They're just impossible to get. They were limited to 150 to 250. The first one, Sarin Assault and Armaguet Nad, set you back about 150. Dead End Limited 2, NJKE, £95. Dead End 3 is Dead End Limited 3 is Angel Flow, whose entire output is so hard to get. There's a lot of releases on that. Slaves of Devil Our Master, Sodom was in. That's going to set you back 110. And Dead End 4 is Overt Kill, who's a less well-known artist, but it's still £60. I don't think there's any copies of this entire label on Discogs. once in a blue moon. If you get any of those for £150, then you have every right to sort of dance around the room and turn cartwheels, because they are rare as rocking horse poo. So yeah, in terms of the Micropoint discography, there is sort of a sort of split between value and valuable, not valuable there. Basically, their releases on Beast Records, again, sort of quite expensive to get. There's Dirty Vinyl, which I think is a very early release. It's actually Beast 2. Copies going for about £60 there. Beast 3, which is also Micropoint, Heartbreak, 110 quid. That's got Armour Battle on it, very sought after track. 250 BPM beast of a track. Very, very, very hard to get, very sought after. I don't think that's been repressed or anything. I think there might be a CD on a CD or something. Then you've got Anti-Nazi Vendetta, which is Dead End 6. Headfoot 4 over on an Italian label. That's £15, not so bad. They even bump up the value, because Micropoint appear in it, of Gobble 10. Now Gobble is not a label that sort of stuff changes hands for big money. There's no copies of that for sale. The average price 15-20 quid. So, and then Micropoint did Static Hanger stroke My Computer, which is Death Tank 21. Everything after that kind of drops off a bit in price. They have some releases on Psychic Genocide. There's a split with Hellfish. There's the Explicit Bass Drum 2 sampler on Epithet, and the Mastodon TP on Neurotoxic. They're not quite as sought after, quite as rare, etc. And I think a lot of the side gens have maybe been repressed, or I'm not sure, but not so difficult to get. And then Micropoint broke up in 2001. Don't exactly know the circumstances of that. Radium and Alcor went their separate ways. Radium became sort of a lot more famous than Alcor in general hardcore terms. He plays a lot in the UK. He sort of is synonymous with that sort of Frenchcore sound, that sort of offbeat bass sound. He does a lot of joint EPs with people like Lenny D and Speed Freak, who very much taken on the Radium sound of stuff. His stuff, yeah, he knows what he likes. He has his sound. He puts a lot of stuff out. What can I say? Alcor, not so much. Has kind of tailed off in the latter half of the 2000s. Didn't release a great deal as Alcor between 2005 and 2010. Did a double EP for Psychic Genocide in 10, and then I think in 2008 Micropoint reformed. They did a couple of a couple of releases on Micropoint Records, sorry, and then the last year there's the Exit Mankind album, which is over on SideGen again. I've seen sort of footages of live performances, and it's sort of guitars and vocals and stuff, and yeah. Need to look into a bit more of that stuff. It's Frenchcore, as you might expect. I'm sure, I mean, in grander scheme of things, it's still pretty hard stuff, but I think some of the sort of the post 2001 stuff of Radiums, and maybe the more recent stuff of Micropoint, some people would find a bit cheesy, but that's your prerogative. There's certainly enough resources for you to have a listen to some of Radium's stuff. I'm just looking what stuff of Radium's I've got, me personally. There is this stuff of the Nihilist as well, which is very sort of stripped down, percussive, and a couple of noises kind of stuff. Very good for mixing stuff over the top of, I suppose. Yeah, I've got In Extremis volumes 1 and 2 of Radium's Paranoia Performance. I've got a lot of his earlier stuff on Cygen. I've got his Scum Center on Rebel Scum. That's a decent EP. His EP on See You Next Tuesday Records. I've got these Shockwave EP, 500 Year Time Slide, and the Steel Finger remixes on Psychic Genocide as well. Haven't got much of his more recent stuff on Cygen, and his stuff on Arena, which I can take or leave, frankly. But yeah, when his stuff sort of comes up and I can get it cheap, I do buy his stuff now and again. I'm not completely averse to getting it. You know, there's going to be some decent hard stuff on there. He does have his cheesy moments, but you can forgive him that. He's brought out a lot of decent EPs over the years, and his DJ sets are sort of nothing to complain about. They're not cheesy by any means, but he's got a big following. But he is one of those artists, Spirit Radium, with very divisive. But yeah, I mean, he's not DJ Paul by any means. But so yes, there's sort of little covering dead end stuff, Micropoint stuff, and sort of blundering over into Radium generally. I hope that's been of any use to anyone. If I'll link to the various discographies, any YouTube videos I can find of the various tracks. If you've got any suggestions of stuff I can do in the future, there's a link to my collection on Discogs. I don't like to talk about records I don't own and things like that. So that's great. Hopefully I'll do another video next week. If there's any questions you have, any comments, please do your thing. Any likes, subscriptions and so forth. I know I got 3 or 4 subscriptions on the back of the last video, and hopefully I don't have to leave comments and annotations in this video pointing out that I've been talking bollocks about various things, so I'll hope to have kept that to a minimum. So this has been J5276. This has been episode 3 of the Curators of Hardcore. See you all again soon. Thanks very much.
Curators. Hardcore.